in it. We have been looking at the subject of desperate situation and how to handle these desperate situations. Jesus said, as long as we are in this world, we shall face tribulations, but we must be of good cheer, for he has overcome the world. 1 John 5 verse 4 says, for whosoever is born of God overcometh the world. And this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Now, we will just move very fast so we can catch up with what we're trusting God needs to say to us today. Now, some of the examples of desperate situation that you find men and women involved in are relationship, maybe a marriage relationship that is being heated, to the point of, getting two lovers now becoming people who hate themselves. Seeing a doctor and having a doctor's report, and the doctor's report is not something that is palatable. It's not something that you want to share with somebody else. It's something that seems to have just devastated your focus and is giving you a major concern. Desperate situations are circumstances where your child that you have labored on, trained, all of a sudden he or she has become wayward in their way of acting and thinking, and their pattern of life seems to be affected. But you see, in all of this, one thing I must emphasize is the fact that God will save you even if you find yourself in those desperate situations. He says, though you go through the valley of the shadow of death, fear no evil, for I am with you. I said earlier on that God is the constant factor when it comes to the solution to any desperate situation. You can't do any desperate thing to change your situation. The only desperate thing you can do is to be desperate enough to seek the face of God and hold tenaciously to the hand of the Almighty God. Now, all of these desperate situations and circumstances that you and I face in our lives, it's not to drive us away from God, it's to bring us closer to God. I have met people who have said, Pastor, I'm going through certain situation. When I solve that situation, I'm now going to come back to church. I'm going to seek the face of God. No, you can't handle your situation without God. God must be the constant factor. So if you're in a desperate situation, one thing you must realize is that God can save you in that desperate situation. Sometimes people are delivered before they can even experience desperate situation. And sometimes we don't even realize that God has already delivered us. And so we are completely oblivious of the fact that there was an interception by God to save us from stepping into certain situations and circumstances. So one of the things that you and I must learn to do, must learn to give God thanks at every given point. Even if you are in the situation or you are not in the situation, you must thank God for each day. You must be grateful. You must have a heart of gratitude. You must be able to say, thank you to Jehovah for his life in you, for his protection, for his preservation, for his honor. Now, when you look at the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were found in the midst. God found them in the midst of the situation. They were allowed to be thrown into that fiery furnace. But God stepped in and changed their situation. God stepped in and turned the situation around. Rather than them being destroyed, God had glory, and they were glorified, they were lifted, they were honored, you know. Rather than being put to shame, the mercies of God came through for them, and I mean, you know the end of their story. They became the envy of the people. So sometimes we go through this desperate situation, not because we have